On this episode of ITG, the Mountaineers go to Cincinnati and claim a victory. We'll break it all down. We'll catch up with our buddy Big Daddy, all of that and more on this edition of In the Gun.
You are now watching Believe.
ITG.
Special guest, Sean Big Daddy Mariner.
Handsome, tubby man of gold.
Mac and cheese, top 3 food for me all time.
Here with your gnarly news at noon, I'm Sean Mariner.
You've never met a mac and cheese slut like me.
You are In the Gun.
Because once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
In the Gun, episode 210 of your new favorite WVU football podcast. I'm Wes Euler. We got the best teammates in the business. I've got the signal caller, Jed Drenning. We will have the handsome, tubby man of gold, Sean Mariner, in a few moments. But before we get to any and all of that, you already know that we are brought to you in part by our friends at Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. You can get all the odds and in-game live betting on Bet Online, all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. The largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, even UFC, and boxing. Head to BetOnline today to get in on all the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. And the Mountaineers go to Cincinnati, Jed, 31-24. The winner in the return, a triumphant one to Nippert Stadium.
Yeah, it sure was. I enjoy the environment on campus at Nippert. We celebrated, or they celebrated, I should say, the 100th anniversary of that facility while we were there.
Which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, but I like old stuff, and I like antiquated stuff. It has this building that sits up, if you've never been there, up above the end zone where the Phantom unfumble took place in 2009. It's that end of the field. And it kind of reminds you of, Woodburn above Old Mountaineer Field. It has that vibe to it. And it's just, I like the place. Now, it could stand to have a better setup in the broadcast booth. It really could.
That's how those old places are. I had the same thing at the Washington Commanders Stadium this weekend. That's how those places are.
Yeah, that's a tough one from the booth. But yeah, it's set up. It's kind of cozy right in the middle of campus. They built all around it. Really, they don't have much room left to do building otherwise. But and it was a good crowd. It was a good crowd. They love their Bearcats there, especially when their Bearcats are winning football games. And they'd been on a bit of a roll. They'd exceeded most of their expectations. Then hit that tough loss against Colorado, and then headed into the bye week and faced West Virginia. But it was a good crowd. And we didn't play the perfect game, but we're going to get into some of the good and some of the bad and some of the ugly. But we played well enough to win. It was kind of a disjointed, strange feeling game. Anytime that you score twice on defense, you're going to lose a couple possessions offensively, and it's going to have an unnatural feel to it. But yeah, by and large, we went into a pretty tough environment. That crowd was energized into it, and we overcame that and played well enough. The defense swelled up and bowed up at the appropriate times, forced those turnovers we're going to talk about. Offense made just enough things happen, but and really the big thing I'll say, Wes, and then I'll toss it to you because we'll get into the particulars here. But the big thing about Cincinnati was they had been winning games by winning field position. That was really like one of their podcasts I listened to last week pointed this out. They were number one in the country defensively and starting with the most favorable field position as a defense. In other words, every time they took the field defensively, you had to go on a long field, which is why they allowed so few red zone trips. We talked about that, right? You had to drive 60, 70 yards to get in the red zone against these guys because their defense faced very few short fields. And meanwhile, West Virginia, you were concerned because we were 121st in the country in our average starting field position offensively. So it seemed to be a terrible matchup from a field position standpoint. And you very much felt, look, if we're going to go in here and win this game as what it turned out to be a 6-point underdog, you're going to have to flip that. And you're almost going to have to win the field position battle. And we didn't just do that, Wes. We did it decisively. Like a couple things when I popped the hood last week to see how Cincinnati was doing that, avoiding these short fields. Well, hidden yardage was a big part of it. They got a great punter. That's part of it. The other part is even when Cincinnati's offense had turned the ball over, they had yet to turn the ball over heading into last Saturday inside their own 40 once all year. So a turnover never gave their defense really a short field. Well, we had a couple of turnovers we forced inside the 40 or so. So in that area, and that's something they weren't accustomed to. We won the return game. We won the hidden yardage game. We weren't that penalized. All those things stacked up. And our average starting field position, I think, that worked out to our average starting point was our own 43. Theirs was their own 21. We crushed them in the one key area of the game that they've been beating everybody and how they've been winning games. So that went further than anything else right there with the turnovers in terms of how this game was decided.
No, it certainly was. And you know what, Jed? I mean, it seems like it's almost become a theme on the podcast over the years of us talking about, I mean, just how different the WVU defense is when they're forcing turnovers versus when they're not. And some of that is a little obvious, right? Because, I mean, that's football in a nutshell. That's the way, defense at pretty much every high level of football is played at a high level, is you got to take the ball away. But particularly with this team, and you're right. I mean, there's some, just if you were to not watch this game, if you would have not watched the game on Saturday, and you go back and just kind of look at the box score type thing, I mean, there's some really weird anomalies, right? I mean, we had 9 first downs, Jed. They had 24. I mean, we had 248 total yards. They had 436. The time of possession was nearly 4 seconds away from being a 10-minute win for Cincinnati. If I would have just told you those 3 statistics, the first downs, the total yardage, and the time of possession being nearly 35 minutes for Cincinnati, it'd have been like, oh yeah, there's no chance WVU won that game. But that is the beauty of when your defense can have plays like that, have moments like that. And they didn't just have one. I mean, they didn't even really just have 2. I know they scored the 2 touchdowns on the scoop 6 and the pick 6, but that forced fumble in the, in the first quarter led to points. Only a field goal. We would have really liked to have scored there, right? But still led to points as well, too. I mean, that's 17 points basically that directly your defense scored for you. That doesn't happen very often. And when it does, you can overcome some of those things that you were just some of the shortcomings on offense and some of those kind of, statistical oddities throughout the game.
To be honest with you, Wes, some of the shortcomings of offense are created by what happened on defense. In other words, when you score twice on defense, you lose 2 possessions on offense. So the game ended with us having 2 fewer possessions than Cincinnati. There's always an incredible imbalance in snap counts created anytime. Like the old quarterback, I remember as a player, if the other team scored on defense, if I threw a pick 6 or they scooped on a fumble and scored, the first thing I would start paying attention to is, all right, how many plays have they been on the field? Because if we can now put a long drive together, we can create, even early in the game, we can now create an imbalance that they won't be able to overcome, and it'll hurt them late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, when they've been on the field 20 plus more snaps than our defense has. So you have to be very careful of that. One of the concerns that I voiced on the broadcast after the pick 6, now who doesn't want a pick 6, especially a pick 6 when they're deep in your territory? You go 79 yards like Anthony Wilson did for West Virginia. But the issue, or my concern, was the pick 6. Cincinnati started the game with a long drive, okay? And then the pick 6 took place. For instance, Cincinnati, to start the game, they had a 13-play, 68-yard drive to start the game. And then their second possession, this was the 10th play of their second possession, 23 plays in already when they threw the pick 6. And my first thought was, oh boy, our defense has now been on the field for 23 snaps and 2 possessions, and they're going immediately back out there. Boy, do we need a quick stop. And that's what I told Tony on the broadcast. Fortunately, we got a 3 and out. So we did get that quick stop. And it started this succession of 3 and outs. Like I was going to say, Jeff Coons talked about the fact that when you look at the 13 possessions, when you look at the 13 possessions they had, every possession between number 2 and number 9 either ended in a turnover or a 3 and out. I mean, we had this streak going of stopping them one way or the other. And And that
Yeah,
was
Jed,
just incredibly beneficial at the right time.
after the pick six, I mean, even the next possession that was a turnover as well, 3 plays for Cincinnati, then 3 and out, then 3 and out, then 3 and out,
Yep.
and then it was halftime. And you're able to
Yep.
catch
And then it was
you're able to
halftime.
catch your breath and kind of get back on level footing. I mean, you're right. That snap count thing is the one kind of the very manageable, or at least you'll take it, underbelly
Yeah.
of a pick six or a scoop six. But you know how you make up for that? You go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and you can get back real quick.
Here's the thing, Wes. D coordinators will often tell you this. Our old D coordinator at Glenville, Dean Hood, always told the defense, keep them on the field. Something bad will happen. Jeff Kuntz said this very thing coming out of the Arizona game. When he was looking back on the Arizona game, he's like, look, we can live with Arizona's 14-play drive because guess what? We're a third down stop or so away from stopping that thing. What we can't live with are missed assignments, miscommunication, blown coverages, and cheap plays that set up 4 and 5 play drives because then you don't have the opportunities to get them off the field. Because when you don't make those mistakes and you force them to drive the length of the field, 10 plays or so, you saw what happened. Wes, if early in that drive in which Anthony Wilson had a pick six, we blew a coverage and they had a 45-yard completion, they're not on the field for that to happen. The fact that you forced them to drive 10 plays, that's 10 opportunities for the defense to force a mistake. That's not 4 or 5 opportunities because you blew a coverage. So you can live with the defense forcing them to drive with the understanding that eventually you're going to start winning some of those third down battles. And the other thing that stood out to me was the way the early portion of this game unfolded. We headed into this game dead last in the Big 12 in third down defense. Cincinnati started the game 1 for 9 on third down. Now, the issue was once we started backing off a little bit and doing different things, they converted 6 of their final 7. But that 1 for 9 was a flash of what we're capable of because some of the things that were happening in that first half, we were giving him looks that he really didn't understand. And by him, I mean Brendan Sorsby. We were disguising some coverages. Like, first of all, the first third and long they had, we brought a 6-man pressure, and we haven't shown a lot of that. They didn't expect that. Okay. It impacted him. And then we showed 6 and dropped 1 and brought 5. And then we had another third and long in which we showed 6 and we dropped 8. So all of a sudden, he's throwing into coverage. The big thing is this, like, we want to be more aggressive on third down. Once you get them behind the sticks and it's third and long, you want to get them behind the sticks so you can dial up some different pressure packages or get creative or try different things. Neil even talked about that because he was asked, look, did you have any influence on any changes in the defense? He said, well, I wanted to be a little more aggressive on third down. But understand, and please listen closely, West Virginia's defense from a personnel standpoint is not built to go man-free coverage and blitz 70% of the time. We're not built to do that. We can blitz. In other words, think of this. When you blitz, think man coverage. Zone blitz is a whole different conversation. So the type of blitzing we're talking about, you can generally anticipate man coverage.
Yes.
Well, man coverage can create mismatches, and they can be game planned for if the other team knows the blitz is coming. So the key to it is pick your spots selectively. Yes, you want to pressure them. Yes, you want to blitz, but you want to do it in such a way as to keep them off balance so they don't see it coming. So they don't plan ahead and say, oh, you're in man coverage. Well, I'm going to move this guy over here because none of your guys can cover this guy, and I'm going to send him on a mismatch and around. Don't let them do that. Sneak up on them with it so they don't see it coming. And if you do that, then it can be a very effective tool, a very effective weapon. And especially in the first half, that's what you saw happening. That's why we had Brendan Sorsby out of sorts. I mean, I watched a lot of tape on Brendan Sorsby this year going into this game. And he was very comfortable in Satterfield's system. He was very comfortable in the ecosystem of this offense. This was by far the most uncomfortable I've ever seen him. He didn't play well against Colorado 2 weeks ago, but he didn't look as uncomfortable as West Virginia had him at various points throughout this game. And what happened was he had to revert to his legs. If you notice late in the game, he never did get comfortable. If you watched his feet throughout the course of the game, a quarterback's feet will always betray his mind. And the more you see active feet, the more indecisive the quarterback usually is in terms of what he's seeing. And his feet were very active early, and they stayed that way through the second half. He started extending some plays, getting out of the pocket and giving himself a bit of a breather. And then he started running the football some. But I never saw a point where he settled in and truly got comfortable all the way to the bitter end.
No, and it was weird in that regard because I mean he had moments where he was in control, he was in command, he was making plays, and he kind of had us on the back foot, but then just some of those head scratching moments and decisions. Jed, okay, you'll laugh at this. I gotta tell you a quick little anecdote. So I watched the first half of the game at Archie's, which is the WVU place in Pittsburgh.
I talked to
Before
a friend who bumped into you there, Paul
Did you?
Freeze.
Paul. Shout
Paul
out
Freeze,
Paul.
yeah.
Shout out
He
Paul.
messaged me,
Shout
yeah.
out shout out Brian, Zach, all the nice people that I met down there, all those guys. It was awesome. And listen, if I didn't travel with the Steelers, which takes me out a lot on football weekends, and if I didn't have season tickets to WVU, which takes me out of a lot of the equation, I'd go to Archie's for every game. I love it there. Great food, great people. But so I was there with one of my buddies, TJ, and like we kept joking about how like Sorsby he'll look like Johnny Manziel one play and then Will Levis the other play, right? Like one play you just couldn't believe this Houdini, he'd make a guy miss and turn what should have been a 3-yard loss into a 12-yard gain. The next play why are you throwing that pass that ends up being intercepted and taken back to the house, right? And so we were just like, all right, Manziel or Levis, what's coming here? Manziel or Levis? Manziel or Levis? Because, of course, Will Levis, the Tennessee Titans quarterback, who makes head for those who don't get that reference, makes
straight in the area.
Head-scratching turnovers every single time he takes he'll make some really great downfield throws, and then he'll, like, throw it behind his back to the other team, and you're like, what are you doing? Yeah. So, yeah, like, live by the Sorsby, die by the Sorsby. That's kind of what I was thinking. Because, like you said, I mean, he had his moments without a doubt, and particularly with his legs. I mean, he was really making some plays with his legs in that second half. But the defense was able to do enough to just keep him uncomfortable. That's another thing that a lot of, I think defensive minds will tell you is, listen, when you play against these athlete quarterbacks that can hurt you with your legs, yeah, it can make you want to pull your hair out at times. But at the same time, too, eventually, if you've got them scrambling and you've got them improvising enough, you're going to be able to make your plays as well. If you're able to make them uncomfortable enough, hey, they might be good enough athletes that they'll make it work from time to time, but you're also going to be able to make them pay from time to time. And I think we made them pay more than he did Houdini stuff, over the course of 60 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And, let's hit the 3 turnovers because first of all, you talk about the difference.
Before you do that, another thank you to our friends at Toothman Ford and our guy JR. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. Big shout out to everyone there at Team Toothman. All right, Jed, talk to me about these turnovers.
Shout out to JR for sure. But we talk about Sorsby did make a big difference with his legs. He ran for 78 yards. He netted 48 after the sacks. He might have run for 140 if Torma Malba didn't play the type of game that he played. And we'll hit that real quick here in a second. But the 3 turnovers, start with number 1. Here's what ends up happening. You're like, why would you make such a boneheaded throw? Well, in the heat of battle, quarterbacks are on some level conditioned to have a different biological clock ticking when it's 4th down. In other words, the first thing you're thinking is 4th down. Don't take a sack. Don't take a sack. It's 4th down. Throw it up for grabs deep in the secondary. Don't take a sack. Don't take a sack. You're thinking that. It's just how quarterbacks think. And so what happened was, in a snap decision, he made a very poor decision to take that thought process to its extreme endpoint and just fling it out desperately off his wrist into a crowd of 4 Mountaineers because KK Tarnu laid some serious pressure on him. I don't really know what they were looking at doing. I mean, I'm looking at the perimeter on that play. Nothing was setting up. I mean, it was almost like the slot was acting like, am I supposed to run a stick route? Am I not supposed to run a stick route? They had a flare route by the one guy. I didn't understand what it was they were trying to do. But the play was kind of doomed from the outset with the pressure. We had a run blitz on. KK gets right in his face. And again, that's in his defense. And I'm not going to defend that play the way it turned out. But quarterbacks do think, don't get sacked on 4th down. Don't go down with the ball in your hands. Sure. But he made a snap decision he shouldn't have made. That's one of those times. All right, if that's all you can do, go ahead and take the sack. All right, go ahead and take the sack. Do not flip it out to the boundary, to the flat where you see 4, jerseys of the other color. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, The fumble came at a critical time, and it was strange. It was almost like the recovery. He was sitting up, and the ball was between his legs, and they were trying to unpack, and it wasn't that far from our sidelines. We couldn't really tell, and our sidelines just lit up when the referee signaled in our direction for the recovery. But then finally, when you look at the play, and that's what I want to talk about. We're going to get to the fumble because let's talk about overall defensively. I saw great hustle across the board, and good things happen when you hustle. An example I'll use: T.J. Jackson. He's playing field end to the wide side of the field. He ends up on one of those plays. Sorsby scrambled to the boundary to the short side. This was down inside the red zone. TJ's the guy that chased him from all the way across the field to the short side and flushed him out of bounds to give us another chance. I'm like, that's a defensive end to the wide side of the field. That's just pure hustle. Yeah. That's hustle. And here's another example of hustle. TJ on the strip sack for the touchdown. TJ got double teamed, and he actually got held. The tight end and the running back double teamed him, and it was a clear hold, to the point that TJ got held so bad he ripped clean and he turned around to the officials and threw his arms up. Well, at the same time, the tight end was still occupied by what TJ was doing. So the tight end did not see Trey Lathan. Trey Lathan had a clear path to the quarterback. Trey's the one that got in, forced the fumble. Tyron Bradley scoops it up. Again, all because of what TJ was doing. The interconnective tissue of a defense playing efficiently across the board. Another thing, we were very aggressive defensively, and they hit us on a couple of screens. In other words, they were doing all the things you would do against an over-aggressive defense. But do you remember when they ran the reverse play? It's something Owen would know. We used to call it 36-37-0, where the quarterback is running to one side and flips it behind him to the slot, who's reversing back. Remember Darius Raynaud's touchdown in the first quarter of the Sugar Bowl? That was a 37-0. Well, they ran 37-0 against us. All three edge defenders on the backside stayed home. All three, starting with Carrico. You take, the old adage of the high school coach who says 3 steps: trap, counter, reverse. Read it. Mm-hmm. He didn't bite. So he was sitting there to smack him in the face, and right behind him, we had Joseph at safety, and I think it was Dantes at that corner. We had 3 defenders to that side. So that reverse, despite the fact we were playing over-aggressive and very aggressive and pursuing aggressively, that's what you do against an aggressive defense. Try reverse. It didn't work. So we were disciplined as well. So many times you saw Tyron Bradley, and Owen and I talked about this last week in terms of how you defend the stretch play, the outside zone. One of the things you have to do is collapse it from the backside, because that's the unblocked defender. Multiple times I saw Tyron Bradley do that very thing with hustle. Remember when he would just run from behind and just pounce on the running back and drag him to the ground from behind? That's exactly what Owen and I were talking about last week. One of the key ways to defend that. And then finally, you got to talk about Fatorma Balba. I mean, most of the time my notes are on the offensive side, but this week, most of my notes were on the defensive side as I'm watching the tape. And what Fatorma Balba did, it was clinic tape. It really was. And you would think, okay, he ends up with 13 tackles, which for an odd front nose guard, you're not supposed to have 13. You're not supposed to have 13 tackles in a month, right? Much less
all
in a
season.
Game, okay? Yeah. So you would think that, to get 13 tackles, what defender must be going sideline to sideline. No, that's not what he was doing. He wasn't running sideline. He was hustling, absolutely. But most of it was within the confines of the box. So what was happening, I came up with some examples here. He had no sacks and just a half TFL, but he had a ton of stuffs right at the line of scrimmage and 1-yard gains. He had a ton of those. And he just didn't get the flash plays, the TFLs and that type of thing. But the quarterback, he would tackle Sorsby so many times just past the line of scrimmage. The one time he found himself off balance when we were stunting, and the running back used the fact he was off balance against Fatorma and tried to knock him away. Well, Fatorma managed to, at 300 plus pounds, make an athletic play, get around the running back to get his hands on Sorsby's ankles, because Sorsby had a seam and he was about to pop one into the second level. Fatorma made the stop. He used very violent hands to make that happen. He did this multiple times by wrapping the quarterback up right before he slipped through that A-gap. And he prevented a bunch of big plays by doing that were 1-yard gains that otherwise would have been 10, 15, 20, who knows. Mm-hmm. And there were other times he held his ground against a double team and then tore through. He would lose a bear hug, or in other words, shake free of a bear hug and just pounce on Kiner. as he hit the line of scrimmage. He was just anything right there within 6 feet to within 2 or 3 yards of the action taking place. Sometimes they were double teaming Vitorma. Sometimes it was mano a mano against the center. Like there was one time he stood the center straight up and basically just deposited him on top of Corey Connor as Connor was half getting tackled, and that finished the tackle. I mean, he just dominated at the point of attack, and all of it was right there. The vast majority of it was right there between the tackles. So hats off to Vitorma Malba. Hats off to the defense. These 3 turnovers carried the day. I thought that everybody was in place. I thought we played efficient football. The only thing that frustrated me, the penalty on 4th and 1. I mean, that was one of those things that, look, you should be smarter than that for one reason. When they lined up on their own 40 to go for it, that was early in the game. All I could think was, hell will freeze over before they go for this for one reason. You don't have a defense that leads the country in the most favorable field position by going for it on 4th down early in the game at your own 40. This team doesn't do that, okay? Yeah. Because their defense never faces short fields. Well, guess what, Wes? We played 3 phases of football well enough, and the offense did just enough. Special teams did a heck of a job. Defense certainly kind of carried a lot of this, but that field position battle was where this game was won. We were given a lot of short fields, and to the credit of the offensive staff, they saw Nico unable to settle in quite the way he had against Arizona, and they said, hey, let's go backyard football with this. You've been playing pat and go and throwing deep balls since you were 10. How about we understand their corners are in man coverage? How about we get you away from the jumbled mess that it looks like in that 3 safety configuration in the middle? Heck with that. Let's just focus on an outside release vertical. You know how to drop it in the bucket from 40+ yards downfield on an outside shoulder. Those corners had perfect coverage. Perfect. Both of those were right in front of our boundary, Wes. And I'm telling you right now, Nico threw it. You couldn't have run up and handed the football to Justin Robinson more accurately than Nico threw it. I mean, that was perfect coverage by that corner in both spots. And Nico just you can't defend a perfect throw. And that's exactly what you saw happen there. So credit to the offensive staff for just saying, you know what, let's bail the kid out. Let's remove the thinking from that dimension from it here a couple times and just let him throw a deep ball. And it worked. It catered to his strengths. And at the end of the day, those types of things help with the field position as well. But we made the plays that needed to be made at the right time. And anytime you can do that, I tweeted last night maybe when I was tweeting my video from some of these turnovers and the sideline celebration. It was just such a cool time on the sideline with all those defenders so excited and jazzed up. West Virginia has now won 3 straight conference road games for the first time since joining the Big 12. First time we've ever done that in a season. And if you go back to last year, we won 4 straight, counting the Baylor game. And now I told somebody to fact check me on this one because I researched it, but I was like somebody to back it up. West Virginia has won the turnover margin in 3 consecutive conference road games for the first time since 2008. So we're doing some things that help you win football games. Take care of what we can take care of, because now all the chatter is what seemed a couple weeks ago like 30 things had to happen to get us to Dallas, even if we won out. Now it's down to like 3. Okay, so it's like 3 things, maybe 3.5, depending on how you look at it. It starts with we have to win out. But now all of a sudden, it's not this crazy, bizarre.
But that's all that matters. But that's all that matters. Yeah. You know what I mean? At the same time, you can't start, well, hey, all we need now is X, Y, and Z. No. All we need now is to win at home on Saturday against Baylor, right? And then reassess from there. But I get what you're saying. You do legitimately you got something to play for down the stretch here. Yes, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
It was the Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber 2 weeks ago. So you're telling me there's a change? Yeah. I mean, now it's like, are you serious? It's like this and this, and we went out. Okay.
No,
fair enough. So it sounds realistic. Far more realistic than it did a couple weeks ago if we do what we need to do.
Yep. There's a real path there.
Yeah.
That path begins with a bear in the name of Baylor rolling into town next week. a team that has never. Do I say it? I can't jinx it. It's a statistic. A team let's just say.
Is it like breaking up a no-no? Can you talk about the no-no?
Just look. Just Baylor's wins at Mountaineer Field are still vacant. All right, let's leave it like that.
Well, as Cincinnati had the football driving, even when it was 31-21, Wes, you're a Mountaineer fan. I want to ask you, is there one particular game that you were thinking of when they had the football driving 31-21?
Yes.
There was one game I was thinking
the other old Big East opponent that we played earlier this season.
Not even other. A game 16 years ago at Mountaineer Field.
Yeah, of course. That's what you're thinking of. I thought you meant from something recently.
No. Do you remember Pat McAfee's 52-yard field goal?
At Heinz Field?
No.
Or against Cincinnati. Field. Sorry, to tie the game at the very end of the game.
Remember those
right?
circumstances? Wes, we were down 20-9 and scored a touchdown with 18 seconds left.
That's right.
18 seconds. Went for 2, 20-17, onside kick, one catch, McAfee, 52.
Bang.
We're going to overtime at 20. Yeah. I kept thinking of that. That's what I kept thinking of. I'm like, oh. But hey, how about this? I walk up to Blaine Stewart on the sidelines before the game. And I fist bumped Blaine. I said, last time I was here was with your dad. And he just leaned in and he said, this is our 2009 revenge game. And we got it.
Been waiting for that one for a while. You've been waiting for that one for a while. I love it. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah. Hey, another thank you to our friends at Fortis, our guy Rick Lewis. We all know for roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed, you got to visit fortis.us.com. We have to get to a break to get our buddy Big Daddy Mariner in here and get his view from the sidelines and everything that happened there in the 31-24 win at Nippert Stadium. But first, Jed, just for a minute or two before we go to break here, I did want to make sure to say at some point in this episode, and before I forget, because Big Daddy will get on here and we'll start laughing and I'll forget. As we record this, it is Monday, November 11th. It is Veterans Day in our country. And Jed, we don't have many things that we agree on and that unite us in this country anymore. Like it's not funny to say, but it is kind of funny to say. But I think support of our veterans is one of them. I think the acknowledgement that we as citizens and we in our government, we as citizens and our government don't do a good enough job of loving and supporting our veterans. That's, I think, one of the few things that we agree on. One of the few things that unites us in this country is our support and our love for our veterans. And so if you are a person who has served this country, all the men and women that have served this country, we truly thank you, all of us from the bottom of our hearts, because there's not much that we all agree on anymore. But thanking you is certainly one of them.
That's well said. And I make a conscious effort, Wes, at various points throughout the year. Sometimes I'll even make a comment on Twitter. I'll say something like, hey, it's February 16th. Far removed from Veterans Day, nowhere near Memorial Day. Great day to thank a veteran. I try and be mindful of it every day. And I can't tell you, I've been the beneficiary of some really cool conversations in a Walmart or in a Target, wherever I might be, in a Cabela's, just because I saw somebody wearing a veteran's cap and I thanked them. And the next thing you know, 15 minutes later, they're still telling me stories. He or she is. Love every second of it. I mean, I'm telling you, that absolutely is one of the coolest experiences that I get to enjoy. I travel a lot for my job, so I'm out and about all day. So I'm in and out of places, and I do try and make an effort to do that. I try and thank them, and I've noticed my kids have picked up on it, and I kind of appreciate that. Nice. I've seen my wife doing it, And hey, thank you for your service, ma'am. Thank you for your service, sir. And sometimes they'll engage you. I mean, they always are very appreciative, but sometimes they'll actually engage you, and they'll start telling you stories and where they're from and what where they went, but it's always incredibly meaningful. In all 50 of these United States, and of course West Virginia has given as much or more than the others in that respect. But we talk about Memorial Day being one thing, Veterans Day being another thing, but look, if you have served on any level at all, you're owed appreciation, you're owed a debt, because we get to do stupid podcasts and have stupid arguments and do all these silly things we do and enjoy our sports and whatever else it might be that we get to take out of life. But it's all because of those folks, those fine men and women that that do those things that make that all possible. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely. Today and every day, thank you to those that have served. We got to get to a break here. We'll wrap this thing up with Big Daddy Sean Mariner, his thoughts, his views, his stories from the sidelines of that win in Cincinnati. We'll do all of that on the other side. You are in the gun. For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
There are better-known tractors in the world than Coyote. Ones with bigger names, longer histories, more popular hats, cute toy lines. But there's not a single tractor ever been built that's better equipped to do the dirty work. So we'll just focus on what really matters. Coyote, we dig dirt.
Now at Johnston Equipment, get 0% financing for 72 months, plus a free loader on select Coyote models in stock. Visit us on Route 33 between Weston and Buchanan.
Back in the gun here as we roll along, it's our handsome, tubby man of gold. It's Sean Big Daddy Mariner. Big Daddy, what's happening? I mean, big smile on your face. Nice trip to Cincinnati, I take it. You had plenty of time to do some TV show watching on the bus. What'd you get into?
Yes, a legit wonderful trip, even though that bus trip almost kills me every single time. This was it was my old stomping grounds. We stopped in Columbus to practice, where I worked and lived for 3 years. And while I was there, we would go back to Cincinnati all the time to either cover UC football games, or my buddy was from right outside of UC. So this was a trip down memory lane for me.
Nice.
Started Shoresy again for the 7th or 8th time. Gonna finish that tonight. I also wanted to wrap up. What else did I watch? I had to get my Great British Baking Show in that Friday morning. That's what was carried. It carried me to Columbus, and then just to
watch the Holiday Baking Championship. Big Daddy, do you watch that?
Haven't watched it yet. No. A+.
My wife. Every year she waits on it. First episode was last week.
Okay.
So she's always eagerly waiting on that. And I'm it's on in the background when I'm sitting there working. So, I'm watching Jesse Palmer do his things and eat his cupcakes and all that.
You absorb it. You absorb what's going on.
I absorb it. I do. I absorb it.
Jed, now you guys went to, where did you go for dinner? Did you go to Montgomery Inn with the gang?
No. We on Friday
that's
night.
right. You were bougie. Somebody brought their family and drove on their own and was too good for us bus riders.
Yeah. I've been to the Montgomery Inn a bunch of times.
I did Lucius Q's, which was it's interesting. It's named after, I was reading about the history of it. There's a Roman aristocrat named Lucius Quintius Cincinnatus, who the city is named after.
Nice.
Lucius Q is named after the guy the city's named after. And it's a great barbecue spot. Of course, I had to have my Cincinnati, chili on top of the spaghetti. And then we stayed Saturday night as well. So we came home, and Wes and the Steelers radio crew entertained us on the drive home. But we had a burger at a place my buddy Will Gregory had recommended called the Turf Club. It's kind of like a Bengals bar type thing. Nice. But it was a really good burger spot. And so we enjoyed that. We had a couple good meals when we were there. We sure did. But when I came back Saturday night, Big Daddy, they ate in a hotel, the family did. And they asked me what I wanted. I was just like on and off, just crashing into the bed, like while I'm watching games. And finally I fell asleep at halftime for good. BYU Utah game, and I woke up at 3 o'clock just as the ESPN highlights were on, so I saw how it ended. But it was a fun trip. We got home Sunday night. We were in no rush. Got home Sunday night, but yeah, it's fun to have a drivable road game.
Yeah.
In conference.
Isn't that weird?
Conference, I should say.
Isn't it
Yeah.
weird?
No,
Yeah.
it didn't used to be. I mean, it is
No,
now in
yeah.
this new world
Yeah.
where Arizona and West Virginia are in the same conference and Rutgers and UCLA are in the same conference. But I
Yeah.
promise, kids, it didn't always used to be this way.
Yeah. It was. I'm telling you, it was nice in stadium too. Like our sideline was our sideline. It was predominantly WV. Like it was nice.
We had
to
good
have that
turnout
on the road.
Yep, that's what
Yeah, we
happens.
sure did.
when
How many you
that's
think were
what
there? 4 or
happens when you
5,000,
play
Big
games.
Oh,
Daddy?
at least. Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out, my Uncle Chris was there, Doddridge County's finest. My Uncle Chris
Yeah.
made the
Shout
trip
out
for the
to-
weekend as well.
Shout out to Buck Clark, an old Tucker County guy that a few years younger than me, but I hadn't seen Buck Clark in 30 some years until he started leaning over the stands onto the sideline, and he hollered at me, and I was like, Wait, what? I live in Dayton now, this and that." And he starts telling me what he's doing, but yeah, it was fun. See, your uncle was there, Wes?
My uncle was there. Yep, he sure was. His wife Cassie as well too. So yeah, I had a buddy Ryan from college as well who was there. So I mean, it's amazing things that can happen when you can again drive to a game and a fun place to go for a weekend. And
Rachel and Jeremy, the Alios, came down from Morgantown. Old buddy Steven Semenick that I graduated with did WVU News with me. He's in Charleston. He married a girl that I went to high school with. I saw him on the sideline. Shout out to Ryan O, apparent longtime listener. Grabbed me while I was walking to the
there
locker
we go.
room.
It spreads.
And
Hashtag
said-
it spreads.
Goes, handsome tubby man of gold. I'm like, okay, well, there's the catchphrase. And then he goes, "Why do you keep saying you're ugly? You're a handsome son of a bitch." Like, all right, I'm gonna go to the locker room now. His kids
We're gonna have to change the
high-fiving me. The
intro.
players are walking by.
He pulled a
Oh, that's
Costanza.
great.
He left.
He did,
He
100%.
kept him wanting
That's
more.
fantastic.
Yeah, he left on a high
100%.
note. Yeah.
That's it for me. I gotta go.
Sean, before I get some of your stories, some more of your stories from the sideline, you guys, I always like, so you guys will like this quick story because you talking to Jed about food, because every time you come on here, you guys are always, where'd you eat? Where'd you eat? And it's funny, and the people love it, and we love this kind of thing.
I got my Skyline. I ate at a pub, and then I walked to Skyline to get a Coney. So,
Listen,
Okay.
I'm telling you guys, as someone who hosts a radio show every day, when we talk about food, our phone lines and our tweets, we get double the action as we do when we're talking about football. I mean, that's just, everybody loves talking food. So got into town, Sean, into Maryland on Saturday, okay, for Steelers Commanders, and we stayed right on the Maryland campus. I mean, right.
Okay, nice.
There is a hotel that is owned by the University of Maryland called the Hotel at the University of Maryland, and it is right on campus. So I get there. Like I'm a dork. I want to, like, I've never been to this college campus before. It is, I can see their student union out my hotel window. Like they had a volley, I think Maryland was playing UCLA in volleyball or something. Their field hockey team was playing too. So there was some stuff going on campus.
Big Ten rivalry. Come on.
I know, old school Big Ten rivalry, of course.
Old
UCLA and Maryland, like we were just talking about, kids. I mean, this is how it's always been. And so I'm like, I got a half an hour probably till it gets dark. I'm going to explore. And so I literally up to my hotel room, dropped my stuff, back down, and I walked around campus and everything for 30, 40 minutes. Beautiful campus, beautiful area, real old school kind of, brick building campus feel to it. Francis Scott Key building and all this stuff. It was really kind of colonial feel. It was very cool. As much as Maryland would be my third most hated, Pitt, Virginia Tech, and then Maryland, I tip my cap when it's appropriate, and I did really enjoy their campus and that kind of whole area. But I get back to the hotel, right? Charging my phone for a minute, catching my breath, drinking some water for a minute because I just walked for like 40 minutes. And I'm get on my phone and I'm like, all right, where am I going to go? It's dark. It's only like 5:30 at this point, 6 o'clock maybe, but it's dark and it's a little chilly. And I'm an old guy now. I don't need to get in an Uber and go somewhere. What's around my hotel? And I find an Irish pub is like a 6-minute walk, like 2 blocks down the road. I'm like, perfect. I look at their Instagram page. They have $4.50 Guinness until 9 o'clock, baby.
It's all over.
I said it's all over. So I grab Dale Lawley, who is a Steelers.com, Steelers writer, Steelers radio guy as well too. And we go to Looney's Pub. And mind you, like I don't go decked out in Steelers stuff on the road. One, because like actually really the only reason is just because leave me alone. Like that's the only reason is just, you know, just that. And I was conditioned, the hockey team that I worked for out of college, our coach would always tell us on the road, don't wear team stuff when you go out, because he knew we were going to be drinking when we went out. And obviously our minor league hockey team is much different than the Pittsburgh Steelers, but just that was kind of conditioned in me too. We sit down and like I had on just a black WVU quarter zip. So we sit down and the people next to us are all Steelers out and everything, are clearly in town. So they start talking to me and like, you from West Virginia? And I'm like, no, actually I'm from Mars, Mars, Pennsylvania, which is just north of Pittsburgh. And they were from York, Pennsylvania. Very nice people. The lady taps me on the shoulder and she goes, hey, I know you're a Steeler fan. So just so you know, the entire offensive line is sitting over there in the corner eating wings right now. And so I'm sitting at the bar and I do one of these. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see I'm leaning back from the bar to look down the bar. I do go, oh yeah, they really are over there. That's so cool. Hey Zach. Hey, what's up, guys? Hey Mason, how we doing? No, I didn't say anything. I left them alone because again, like I just like to leave people alone. But it was hilarious because this lady was like, hey, just so you know, the offensive line's sitting right over there in the corner.
We're amped up about it, and I have to share it with somebody.
Exactly right. So I figured you guys would get a kick out of that.
Big Daddy, I'm sure you've been in the elevator, and you might have a WVU shirt on or something in the team hotel, and it's almost like the law. If somebody just happens to be staying there for some other reason, they always ask us, "You going to the game?
Yep.
You going to the game?" Yeah.
I get that. I get that all the time.
Yeah, I'm going to the game. Yeah.
Going to the game? Yeah, I'll
sure am. I'm going to the game. Yeah.
What is it about an Irish pub that just calls to it? Molly Malone's was a 4-minute walk from my hotel. Had the Armagh, my family's village of origin, the crest up on the wall. I'm taking pictures of it, sending it to my sister. Like, yeah.
Sean, starts with a G, ends with an Innis. Because there is, listen.
Where was that, Big Daddy?
Dude, just right up the street, over on 4th Street in Covington.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
The story goes, see, Dwight was telling me, Coach Wallace, his parents, he grew up like 70 miles outside of Cincinnati, right?
Yeah.
And he said, now, my folks would typically go to Dayton for their shopping or this or that, but his wife, Leslie, her parents would always come to Cincinnati. But I remember way back when, now I think it's Dwight's parents we're talking about. So he said back then you used to do your shopping in Cincinnati and the nightclubs were in Covington across the river. And we started wondering, does that go back to like
Prohibition?
Prohibition days because the laws were more lax across the river or enforcement or
sure.
And so it starts this 10-minute conversation. We're trying to figure out if that was the case, but interesting stories or interesting way to look at that. Cincinnati was always the place to go shopping, and Covington was always the place to hop across the river and go dancing or drinking or having fun.
I have gotten pretty weird in Newport, right across from like Great American Ballpark. We had a couple bachelor parties over there back in the day, so I can't confirm.
Sean,
across the river get a little wild.
Did you ever go to O'Malley's in the Alley by chance?
Yes, you better believe it, baby.
I don't know if it's one of my top 10 favorite bars in America, but top 25 for
10,
sure.
Yeah.
but it's at least it's AP also receiving votes.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe
there's a parentheses behind
maybe
it.
Maybe in the 15 to 20s range. But yeah, man, I tell you, there's just something about my fellow beer drinkers and my fellow Guinness lovers will agree. Everyone knows like beer tastes different in a can than it does in a bottle than it does on draft. There is not a beer in the world, and there's some that are in the conversation, but there's not a beer in the world that just tastes so much better and so much different when it's poured properly on draft as opposed to a can than Guinness. Properly Guinness it's dessert, man.
It's the most touristy thing you can do. I understand completely.
Soup.
Day one of our honeymoon in Ireland, Shelby and I, we're fresh off the plane. The guy that checks us into the hotel says, go sleep for 2 hours, set your alarm, sleep for 2 hours, get up and get out, or you're going to be a mess.
Yep.
We go right to Guinness, and I get a certificate. I learn how to pour an official Guinness, pause it, and then start it over again.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't be more, there ain't nothing better in the world.
if you order a Guinness in the bar and they bring it back to you faster than like 3 or 4 minutes, they didn't pour it the right way.
No, they did nothing to help you out whatsoever.
Don't order another Guinness after that one. Move on to something else.
I truly, like, my time in Columbus and all the time we spent down in West Harrison, I love Cincinnati. It gets a bad rap. I get the AFC North stuff. I love Cincinnati. I love downtown Cincy. I love Nippert Stadium. The actual field and the stadium itself. It's so cool there.
Jed was talking about it earlier.
Oh, man, it's so historic. We've got to cover the locker room, not great. Post game, pretty rough. Your fat buddies in a couple of classrooms on the third floor at 7:30 a.m. pulling tables into a lecture hall to set up our post game, and it was a tough scene. But the actual field and stadium, I love it. I love it. I love the history behind it, and I really like that area.
I do too. You know what that guy died from? That the stadium was named after?
Injury on the field.
What?
He was stepped on with a cleat, and he went septic. And of course, they had no antibiotics.
Yeah.
So he went septic and died.
Stepped on. They announced it. So Wes, it's their 100-year anniversary down there. So they're doing, they're pulling out stops for it. And again, like I said, Nippert, historic to begin with. You got to defend the Nip. I've loved it, unless we've been playing there. But when they announced that, like, he passed away at 24, I think, right, Jed? He was born in 1900.
Like that, something like that.
24. And they were like, from injuries sustained on the field. And it's like, isn't that what happened to Jack Trice at Iowa State as well?
Jack Trice had a game. Iowa State had a game at Minnesota. And as the story goes, the Minnesota players kind of deliberately did that to him. And he didn't recover from the injuries sustained in that game.
Yeah.
And so that's a true tragedy there, the Jack Trice thing.
And it's just like, my God, like, and not that it's so casual, because we're 100 years removed from it, but you just hear, like, yes, we obviously are naming it after him because we cared about him and everything, but just the fact that they passed on the field is just insane to me.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I agree. We were talking earlier. I like that it's in the middle of campus. I like where you park. It's roomy enough on the sidelines.
Yes.
So you have room to operate.
Because back in the day, that sideline was not that roomy. I remember it being very, very, very tight.
And it
was Colorado and Oklahoma.
Like you said, the visitor locker room, not great, but it's not the worst.
Oh.
So I mean, we've had
better
worse,
than Arizona.
There was a bathroom in this one, so we're already ahead of Arizona.
Yeah, there was a bathroom in the room. Yeah. So you beat Arizona. You didn't have to go through a bunch of AVAC highlights down a crooked hallway to the men's room. But it was a good environment. What do you remember most about the game, Big Daddy?
I was thinking about this earlier, Judd. I don't remember if you remember this. I think it was early third quarter because we still had the pretty good lead. The defense had Cincinnati kind of pinned down in the closed end zone where their student section was. And I was standing down there kind of bird dogging, trying to get stuff. And it was a third down. Yeah, it was a third down. And Sorensby took off on he went right, he went left, he went back, he went forward. It ended up being nothing. They ran him out of bounds. But Hammond Russell had just subbed in. And Hammond chased him all the way to the right, and then chased him all the way back across the field to the left and helped knock him out of bounds. And they were standing Hammond up on the far sideline, and he's got to run the entire length and get off so that the punt can, so they don't have too many men on the field. Yeah. And me and Sean Martin and TJ Jackson and Coach Andrew Jackson are howling, watching Hammond just try to get across the field after running like 75 yards to just chase him. He got over, and I had my arm out, and Andrew Jackson's pushing him, and Hammond just like grabbed my shoulder, and I was like, do I need to carry you to the bench? And he was sitting down there spraying water down the back. I'm fine. The old boy was gassed, and we were, I've never seen Sean Martin laugh so hard in my life.
Oh boy.
That's fantastic.
Oh boy. Well, I looked at one point in the early fourth quarter, because I realized, again, I was, because you have to take an elevator and all this kind of stuff. And I hadn't worked that press room there before.
Yeah.
And I realized I needed it, because I always ask you, all right, where the hell is it? Where am I going?
Yep.
And you give me some sort of directions. I'll understand. So I looked early in the fourth quarter, and I realized I hadn't asked you yet. I'm like, oh no, he's already up there. Now I'm going to have to figure this out on my own. I don't want to have to do that. Well, fortunately, you showed back up.
I came back down.
Yes. I was able to ask you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And get directions.
I meant to just run up and check on something, but it took 27 minutes to get up there and get back down.
It did.
Oh,
and we're waiting with a bunch of fans who are trying to get to their car to get up to the press room. And
I felt bad. The woman that ran the elevator, right? I had been there since before she even showed up to work. So she comes into my elevator to work. You know what I mean? And we're talking back and forth. And when I went to go up finally for post game, I mean, the ESPN guys are breaking down. They're trying to take their cameras on because that's a way up to the concourse to walk out. There's suites on that level. So fans are getting on and off. And I've got to go all the way up to the classrooms. I get on and it's just me and the ESPN guy. And I looked at him and I said, how many more? Because there's 2 or 3 more cameras. I said, are those the rest of your guys? And he was like, yeah. And I looked at her and I said, okay, he'll get off at 2, take me up to 3, and then use your swipe card access to just, you go straight to 4, get the camera guys up because coach is going to be coming across in about 5 minutes, maybe 10.
The override key.
And then you can come in. And she goes, I don't have an override key.
What?
I'm sorry. And she goes, they didn't give me one. So I was like,
boy.
Okay, great.
Gosh.
And then 10 minutes later, when coach came up, like obviously we won, so everybody's in a fine mood and everything. I heard after coach is on the elevator waiting, fans are getting on and off the suites because they're stopping on every floor on his way to his own post-game press conference.
You know what's funny is at halftime, I was waiting on the staff to get down from the booth because I wanted to hear Jeff, and it took longer than normal. It did. It's strange you'd say that because I did notice it took longer than normal.
Normally the way it goes, and I don't, Arizona I think was the same. They have security or something take them to the elevator. That elevator is shut down at halftime or at post game, and it's only for coaches to go up and down.
Yep.
It's like 5 minutes before halftime, 5 minutes after, something like that. Yeah.
Jason, the defensive line GA, is with me in the morning when I'm showing kind of Mike and everybody where the post game presser is. So he gets on with me. They have to go across the, the little hallway into the elevator, go up to 2. The coaches have to get off on 2 and then walk on the concourse with the fans and everybody to get to the press box elevator to then go up the press box elevator to the coaches box.
Oh,
good Lord.
100-year-old stadium, baby. They do what they can.
The most under discussed issue at football stadiums across the country is lack of elevators.
Mm-hmm. You know what I noticed, Wes? I don't think all day, like I had my press pass, and what I normally do is I get it Friday night from Forgale, and I put it in my wallet, okay, because I know I'll have my wallet with me, and then as we get to the stadium, I put it on my belt. Well, I still had it in my wallet, and normally when Tony and Dwight and I are checking in at security to get into the stadium, because we're always there 5 hours before the game or whatever, security, I need to put it on there. There was no security to check in. We just kind of waltzed in. We're looking around. We're like, hey, where's the media level? Well, I think you go that way and go up and hey, come over here. And I got to the press box and nobody had checked my security. And I'm like, okay. And then I finally put it on, but I went all the way down to the field. That guy didn't look.
Nope.
I'm like, all right.
So, kids, if you want to break into Nippert Stadium,
I'm telling you.
This, and Jed, we were
5 hours before kickoff.
I was talking about this with somebody else. So, like you said, it's not just like, hey, it's in the middle of their campus. It's part of their campus. Again, there's a building connected to the field that has lecture halls on the 3rd floor. Their student rec center is connected to the NIP.
Right.
You walk through it to go to class. In the winter, when it snows, there is a certain outline stomped into the midfield every single day when there's snow on the ground. I'll let the 8th grade boys out there think about what it might be that they can stand for. Yes. So like the place is just very open. Like people can just walk in at any time. So I figure people are like, yeah, whatever, just
yeah.
I can't remember who it was. I was talking
Sean,
with
Sean, it's like the Coliseum, but as a football stadium in there.
Yeah, well, not anymore, baby. Coliseum's on lockdown. Okay,
that's right. That's right. It is now, isn't it?
I tell you what, it couldn't have been more night and day from Arizona to Cincinnati. We had a guy on our sideline at Arizona that was checking coach's pass every time he walked down the field. Had to touch it. And at one point, one of our camera guys, Andrew, was like, dude, can you just move over here? I have to film the players coming out of the locker room. Can you just stand over here? No, man, I got to check. Like, if anybody wanted to break in, I think we would know because this is our locker room. Please, just move to the left an inch.
Well, and then Big Daddy, remember I asked you at one point, I needed to get back in there because I needed batteries or I needed something in the second half at Arizona. And I said something to you, And I'm like, that locker room's locked back up. They told me to go get Danny and get the key. I'm not doing that. And you say, oh, well, there's another way to get in. You got to go up here. And I said, heck with that. I'll figure
You know how
something
you
else
got
out.
in?
I'm not dealing with that.
You know how you got in, Jed? Shout out to Danny and Sarah. Back through Danny and Sarah's office. They're part of the family.
Danny and Sarah,
Part of the
Danny
ears.
and Sarah. Yeah, they're part of the show.
You better believe
Danny
it.
and Sarah's office. Yeah.
Oh, listen, everyone's part of the show. All right. Our buddy Paul Freese from Archie's that we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
The guys on the sideline who are yelling at Big Daddy. Listen, before the end of the year, I want more people yelling at Big Daddy when they see him.
It's happening
all right?
a lot this year.
Paul Freese
truly is.
Wes?
I mean, I know he's your buddy that I met at Archie's on this past
He was
Saturday.
an equipment manager in the 80s
Oh, yeah,
and early
he explained
90s.
to me, like, worked with Don Nealon and everything.
He lived with my best friend on the mile ground. There were 4 guys that shared a house.
Nice.
It was an old rich guy that just was lonely. So he's like, hey, give me $100 a month, no utilities, and you can live here. 4 of them did that, $100 a month.
Yeah.
So that's what Paul Freese, my buddy Trevor Taylor, Eddie Carr was in there, Dwayne Tokarski was in there, Paul Freese was in there. So that's how I know Paul. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So he was your equipment manager the year that you were at WVU?
He was around in those days, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's funny. Small world.
Yeah.
No, yeah, he came right up and introduced himself, so it was nice. Yeah, had a grand old time. If you're someone who is making the trip to Pittsburgh for the backyard basket brawl on Friday night, game doesn't start until 8 p.m., so you got some time. I would recommend stopping at Archie's on the south side, get some wings, get a Guinness, tell them Wes sent you before you watch us go get our lick back on the Panthers.
I'm trying to remember where the Steelers are. Are you able to go to the game, Baylor game?
Oh, yeah, I'm at both the next 2 games. Steelers are home Sunday against Baltimore, and then I will have the flags flying. Yeah, we're home. Steelers are home Sunday against Baltimore, and then Thursday night against Cleveland.
Nice. Okay.
Perfect.
Now, Wes, you don't get out of here without telling everybody the text that you sent to Jed and I yesterday.
Oh yeah, so
our boy.
When we getting on the team plane, yes. Long story short, basically, because Sean, I gave Jed the longer version,
okay.
Wes's version for you Taylor Swift fans out there. I could tell that to you when we go to break. But basically, what happened was, I was on the plane, getting on the plane, all that stuff, and saw Beanie. Beanie and I smiled. We shook hands, shared a double victory weekend celebration, and all was right in the world, basically.
Once a Mountaineer, always a Mountaineer, baby.
Once a Mountaineer, always a Mountaineer. And yeah, Beanie was enjoying himself. That defense was enjoying themselves. I think both defenses from the respective units that we are talking about here, gentlemen, enjoyed themselves over the weekend. But yeah, as we've discussed before, you win when you're on the road, and it's the best day ever, and everyone's in a great mood and high-fiving and slapping hands and food and this and that, and you lose, and it's shit. Sit down and shut up and don't talk to me and eat your food and don't even look like you're smiling. So yes, it was nice to get a hello from Beanie and a little double victory weekend celebration. Beanie gave a he said, how about that Mountaineer defense? And I said 2 touchdowns, Beanie, and he said, I saw it, and those boys were cooking. So yeah, I'm sure Beanie will hopefully be giving those guys some love, as I know he stays in touch and everything along those lines as well too.
He's back a lot. He's back in Morgantown a lot at the facility. Yeah.
That story came out that WVU has some recovery stuff that even the Steelers don't. So he comes down all the time to recover.
I was telling that to some of the Steelers media people this week, and they were like, "Wait, what? Really?" So maybe some more people will be writing a story on that, or at least
tell it to some of the pit
asking
people
them about it.
Yeah.
Tell some of the people. Which, by the way, I got to listen to my second consecutive Pat Narduzzi post-game press conference because my guilty pleasure. Anytime Pitt loses, I, as soon as absolutely possible, listen to Narduzzi whine and moan about the loss. And the beauty of it is, each time they lose, he whines more.
Yes.
So
I don't know if you guys heard his press conference today, where he said the ACC is the best conference in the country.
No, I just listen after they lose. I don't listen to the weekly presser. No, I just the post game. Yeah, and if they win, I don't listen.
No, I don't listen to hyperbole.
Hey, Clemson, let's make it 3 weeks in a row, baby. Come on.
I'll tell you what, if Clemson takes care of business, I'll be listening to that one.
You better believe it.
Well, hopefully big weekend ahead. Hopefully Friday night, a backyard basket brawl win to get a lick back at Pitt. Saturday, keep this thing rolling against Baylor at 4:00. Oh, God bless. The Lord's kickoff time, 4 p.m. on Saturday. And then Sunday, watch Beanie Bishop and Zach Frazier make some big plays against the Baltimore Ravens as well. How about that? Sound like a plan? Sounds like a plan.
All that.
Final thank you to our friends at Johnson Equipment. Before we get out of here, you can get 0% financing for 72 months, plus a free loader on select Coyote models in stock. You got to visit Johnson Equipment on Route 33 between Weston and Buchanan. Sean, thanks for the time as always.
Here to help, Babs. Always here to chat.
He is. He's good people. That's Sean Mariner. For Sean Mariner and Jed Drenning and Owen Schmidt and our producer Skylar Callahan, new father Skylar Callahan
Skylar.
as
Congrats,
well.
Skylar.
Yeah,
Welcome
buddy.
to the party, pal.
Welcome to the party, pal. No sleep.
Nope.
As we've seen in all the pictures of you, where you look like you slept for about 40 minutes. Welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome
as John
to it.
McClain would say.
In our shout out section, we gave Skylar a shout out the Phil Steele episode. He was kind enough to let us share a picture of him and the new addition, the newest Mountaineer. I also want to give a shout out to my alma mater, these Tucker County Mountain Lions that are currently 10-0.
Well, here we go.
Ready to start the single A playoffs, baby.
Here we go.
Yeah. AJ Rapp and the company.
AJ Rapp and the boys. Let's get them going. So for all those people that we just named, I'm Wes Euler. And the one thing we ask of you, all those people and us ask you to be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast. Plenty more to come this week. Obviously, Baylor preview and Phil Steele Friday still as we roll along. So make sure you're tuning in for a big week here as we head down the home stretch and get back to Mountaineer Field. Take care now. Bye-bye then. How many other cliches can I throw in here? Good talk. See you out there. You've been in the gun.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
This mission is over. It's over.